Hello, this is Catherine, as I know I need to stop talking. Hello, lovelies, how are we doing? I mean, it's all gone Pete Tong here. I got the Ocado delivery for Friday night. I know, I am out of control. This is like, God, this is what hurtling towards 40 does to you. Ocado on a Friday night. And I'd forgotten that I'd done it for Friday night as well. So when the nice Ocado man turned up at like 7:30 last night, I was a bit kind of like, who is this mysterious stranger on my doorstep with all these shopping bags? I said, Ocado, of course it's Ocado. Dead exciting. So yeah, we had a lovely chat last night about the hell of trying to buy petrol, more on which shortly. And then but today it's thrown me completely. The whole day has thrown me slightly. And in fact, we lived on a very tiny little road about half an hour ago, and a Ocado van rolled down the street and I nearly shat myself because I thought, fuck, have I actually ordered 2 Ocado deliveries in 2 days? It would not be unknown. But no, they were going to someone else in the house, I think, or maybe they were just as confused as I was. I mean, it's mental out there, isn't it? It is absolutely bonkers. That is if you're in the UK, or maybe just in England, or yeah, maybe it's like not like this in other countries. I hope it's not like this elsewhere in the world. I hope other parts of the world are less bad and better governed. And that's as political as I'll get today, probably. I'll try and stay non-political. I know that lots of people who read the Facebook page hate it when I go political, but sometimes you just have to call a fucking spade, and some of these people in charge are fucking spades, I tell you. But yeah, petrol. So I quite often live in a little happy bubble in the world because I do sensible things like not reading the news and not buying the papers. So I picked Beth and her best mate up from school yesterday. And I was like, on the way to go and get Jamie from his detention. Don't ask me how many detentions Jamie has had, 2.5 weeks into school. It's a good job. I love him. And he's a very good boy, except when it comes to getting detentions. Anyway, so I was like, okay, well, we'll just swing by and get some petrol because I had an empty tank and Beth had football this weekend. Now, before we start doing the hierarchy of who's more important key workers and shit that was going on through lockdown, which, I just say everybody doing anything that's helping other people, you're all fucking amazing. There is no hierarchy. You're all wonderful, brilliant, beautiful people. I needed to get Beth to football, so I was like, I'm just going to swing by the petrol station, girls. I said, we're just going to get some petrol and I'll get you a treat from the petrol station as well. We did not get a treat from the fucking petrol station because it was Beth said to me, she said very casually, which just shows, kind of sort of what the last couple of years have been like. She said very casually, she said, is the world going to end? And I was like, are you worried about that? And she was like, no, I was just wondering because it's madness. And I was like, yes, darling, it is madness. And I was going to say, no, the world's not going to end. And then I thought the last couple of years have been, I'm not putting any bets on anything. So we passed one petrol station that had no petrol, and then we found one, and there was a bit of a queue. And then while I was standing in the queue, sitting in the car in the queue, I then Googled to find out what the fuck was going on. And the world had gone mad because the idiot media and idiot government had basically made everybody fucking panic buy petrol. But yeah, it's fucking chaos. You'll be pleased to know I got my petrol. And while you might be thinking to yourselves, really? Taking Beth to football is hardly like having the responsibilities of a key worker. I say to those critics, you try coming and telling Beth that she can't go to football, and you are a braver lady or man than me, because she's frequently very terrifying. So yeah, it's bonkers, and there's no Ocado on a Saturday. It's like, I don't know about anybody else. Does anybody else feel that life just generally is mental? And I think it's because we spent 18 months doing very little at all, and now we're allowed out again. And it's wonderful and marvellous and fucking knackering. Honestly, I'm it's one social event a day and I'm like, pushed myself a bit. 2 or 3 interactions with people and I'm like, I think I need a lie down and a week off work. I'm exhausted. How did we ever fit so much in? I mean, obviously we did. It was obviously like a perfectly orchestrated game of Tetris and it did all just fit in. But fucking hell, it just feels non-stop. And it's not. It's really not. It's really not that non-stop at all. But goodness me, sometimes it really does. It really does feel like it. So I've had a very busy Saturday on that note. So I started off by taking Beth to football this morning, which was lovely. I love taking Beth to football. It's an absolute joy. I'm completely Pollyanna about it all. Pre-COVID, I would have been like, oh, early start. Oh, it's a bit grey and drizzly. Oh, the motorway's closed. These days, I'm out there like I'm in some Broadway musical, hiking and going, I love the early mornings on a Saturday. And there's a dance move and everything. So yeah, I was living all of the joys of spring until I realised that the route to the football match that Beth was playing this morning, which was quite some distance away, was closed. Now, that's all right? Because we all have Google Maps. I don't know how I existed without Google Maps. Google Maps is one of those things that has improved my life so much that when my children and grandchildren ask me, Mummy, Granny, just to be clear, for any new listeners, I'm not a granny just yet, although Jamie is very keen on becoming a parent, so maybe it won't be much longer. Please let it be much longer, as he's only 13. When they say, how did you cope without Google Maps? And I will just say I didn't. I really, really, really didn't. I mean, I've told many stories about me getting lost due to my poor sense of direction many times. One memorable time was I'd started a new job, and you know, as you start a new job, you're really keen, super keen. Or I am, I'm like super keen. I'm like, yes, I must impress. And I was very, very junior at the time. And my boss, her car was going into the garage, and she lived about a 45-minute drive away from me in the opposite direction to the office. But because I was so super keen, some might say arse licking, and you would be completely correct. But because I was so super keen, I was like, hey, no problem. I'll drive and get you. I don't mind. And she was, and again, you know, it says volumes about what she was like as a person, and we'll leave it at that. When she didn't say, no, that's completely out your way. When she said, fantastic, great, that's a great idea. And so I set off keen to impress my new boss. I'd only been in the job for probably a matter of weeks. And I got so lost because it was back in the day when I didn't have a sat-nav. Google Maps didn't exist, or it certainly didn't exist in my part of the world. And so I had printed off directions. Anybody remember doing that from the old AA website when you could like print a route and print it off, which was fucking useless because who can read a printed route while they're driving a car? Not me. But I had it on the passenger seat next to me, and I just got more and more lost. It was because the directions referred to a ramp. They kept saying, leave the motorway on the ramp. And I don't know, I was expecting like the kind of ramp that you get horses up a horse box on. And there was no such ramp. So I think after extensive research, the ramp thing is a lie. And what they fucking mean is it's the fucking split road. It's not a fucking ramp. There's not a horse box around. What are you banging on about? Oh, directions. So yeah, I remember pulling over by the side of the road. Like, bear in mind, I'd agreed to pick her up by, I think it was 8 o'clock. It was 8:45. I was definitely in that, if I stop and think about this too much, I am going to burst into tears moment. And in the end, I remember I ripped up the instructions because I was like, right, I'm just gonna drive around. And I can still remember the sheer blind relief when I saw the name of her road, and I was like, I'm probably sacked, but at least I found where the fuck I'm going to before I get sacked. She did not sack me. She was actually very nice about the whole situation. But yeah, Google Maps is a wonderful thing. Anyway, back to the story I was telling. My God, I get easily distracted, don't I? Can see where Jamie gets it from. I was driving Beth along this morning, and Google Maps, whilst wonderful and brilliant, didn't know that the big road we were meant to be driving along was closed. So every time I was like following the diversion, and it's like, no, go this way is better. You should take this route. This is a much better route. Take this route. And I'm like, no, that road is closed. And it's like, no, the road is not closed. What road? What road closure? You're talking nonsense. And I felt like Google Maps was starting to slightly gaslight me when it kept going, no, go this way. It's lovely. It's lovely. Go this way. And I'm thinking, I'm sure that road is closed. So I spent the entire journey that should have taken no more than 30 minutes, had all been well. It took us well over an hour because I was doing this like crazy zigzag along the side of the main road that every time I got further away, Google Maps would like lure me back like, no, come down this way. It's so nice. It's fucking closed. You fucking useless piece of shit, which obviously I didn't swear out loud because I was transporting Beth and just said, goodness me. I was in that slightly hysterical region when you're totally lost and you're going, well, I've never seen this part of the country before and I don't want to see it again because it's in the back end of fucking beyond. Anyway, we got there in the end. Beth played her match. It was a great game. They drew. All the girls did brilliantly. And then we got home and mercifully the road on the way back was fully open. So no such dramas occurred. So that was this morning. And then my sister and her husband and my niece and nephew came down today, which was really, really lovely because like small children are great when A, you're related to them. So you feel some kind of like emotional bond with them. And also when you get them in really small doses. And when my sister comes down, it's brilliant. She brings them. They're here for like 3 or 4 hours. They're angels, my niece and nephew, for that 3 or 4 hours. They are angels, angelic children. They left and Beth went, they're so good, aren't they? And I feel like that's probably not the situation if you live with them full time, but for that small dose, it's wonderful. So they came down and then, oh God, then Jamie. I mean, obviously he's nearly 14 now, so he's clearly at that age where he can and does go out by himself. And I am so bad at this stage of parenting. It's untrue. I like to think of myself as really relaxed and chilled. I was going to say cool. No, I've never ever thought of myself as cool ever. But I think of myself as like really relaxed and chilled. Like, you know, the kids want to swear, that's cool. Or they want to watch a slightly inappropriate thing on TV or something, that's cool. You know, we're pretty relaxed. We'll sit together, watch it, we'll chat about it and stuff. But the thought of my child moving away from the virtual umbilical cord, and I'm like, oh my God, I just cannot. I cannot cope with this at all. My kids laugh about it because I'm like, Mummy is the most paranoid parent that ever there was, and I'm sorry, but that's just how I am. And to be fair, they're both really good. Like, Jamie will like message me and go, it's all right, I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I'm like, oh, amazing. I did once, I think I might have shared this before, and how I did once feel that I'd hit peak parenting madness when I genuinely, before he went to secondary school, oh, this is bad to confess, I found myself Googling, is it legal to microchip your child? Because I thought it'd be fucking brilliant if it is, right? Plant a little microchip into them. You'd know exactly where they were. I mean, it's a teeny tiny minor breach of their human rights, but whatever. Anyway, it's not. It's not legal to microchip your child. I did wonder if I could like dress him up in a fur coat and try and persuade my vet to do him, but yeah, I'm not coping with this stage of parenting at all. So yeah, so I tried to do my, it's absolutely fine, Jamie, go and see your friends, while sitting and like rocking in a corner and going, oh my God. But I did have some distraction mid-afternoon. I went to go and get my flu jab this afternoon, which was lovely. I mean, anyone else feeling that they're at the stage now where they've had so many injections this year, they're just kind of like, you know, it's just like, yeah, sure, put another needle in, and I had a chat to the lovely lady in the pharmacy doing it, and we were chatting about blood donation, and she was like, I've never donated blood, and I was like, oh my God, donate blood. So I did my little evangelical, it's amazing, it's easy, you can do it. She's like, I'd love to do it. And I was like, you'll save a life, you'll be a hero. So at which point she backed away slightly. It was quite a small room. We did have a little bit of confusion, me and her. We had a lovely conversation when we were sat there, and she was just sort of getting the injection stuff all ready. And she said to me, how's your tank looking? And I thought this was a medical term that I hadn't heard of. So I thought maybe this was a way of saying, are you scared? And I was like, yeah, no, good, all good, no, great, can't wait. And she looked at me a bit weirdly. And then she went, yeah, it's mental outside. And then I realised she meant my petrol tank, not my tank of fear, or whatever the fuck I thought she was going on about. I mean, honestly, life does confuse me sometimes. It really does confuse me. But no, Jamie's been a really good boy. He's had a lovely time with his friends. He's messaged his mummy. He successfully came back. He still had phone battery, which any parent of a teenager will know that's a total win. And that's my red line, right? I'm like, you can go out, and if I know where you are, and I know that you've got your phone battery, then I'll be completely cool about it. I won't. I'll be hysterical in the corner, but I will do I'm cool about it. I'm fine. I'm cool. But if that phone battery goes, you get home now. But no, he's been a really good boy, and he's come back. And yeah, I was going to try and describe the game he was playing with his friends, but I'm not going to, because it will just come out as sounding really weird. But yeah, teenagers are odd. But yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard, this like letting go, because you brought up, and aren't you, as a parent, and you have to keep your kids safe and with you at all times. That's like a really important part of parenting. Keep your child with you, because you have to look after them. And then there comes a stage when you have to let them go, and oh fuck, it's really hard. But then I look at my sister Helen's kids, who are, sorry Helen, I've forgotten how old your children are, small. One of them is 1 and one of them is 4. I think that's right. Let's pretend that's right, Helen. I hope I've got that right. And they are lovely, but it's like constant, like they can't even leave the room, and you have to like follow them to check they're not like setting themselves alight or going and like eating cat food and stuff like that. It is constant. And yeah, it's just all the stuff that, like, even if someone had told you, and probably someone did tell me all these things, I don't think I would have listened or heard it before I had kids. And this is, to be really clear, this is not unless you have kids you wouldn't understand. It's just for me, this personal realisation of, yeah, just the stuff I wish I had known and got before I had kids. And to be fair, I don't think this would have made any of these stages any easier, but I just think, like, you know, forewarned is forearmed. But then I probably was forewarned, and maybe I just didn't listen, because I was just looking at all the nice media pictures of like people with babies, and like they had clean clothes and white clothes, people holding babies wearing white clothes, and you're like, what the fuck, are you off your head? White clothes with a baby and white carpets, and in fact anything white or cream in your entire household. But yeah, all the stuff that you just like childbirth. I mean, childbirth, I've chronicled childbirth before. Don't worry, it's not a childbirth podcast much. You can carry on eating your spaghetti bolognese or whatever you're eating. But yeah, the whole thing, like, I obsessed over my fucking birth plan. for having a baby. I mean, honestly, I paid more attention to it than I did my fucking dissertation. It was literally, I had a template. I took it to my NCT class. They're like, oh my God, it's amazing. I'm going to use your template. I'm like, sure. I am the birth plan guru. I used fuck all of that birth plan because when it came down to it, all I fucking wanted was some drugs and somebody to get the baby out of me. That's all I give a shit about. People were like, oh, you know, I had kind of things like, I want to wear this. I don't want anybody to like looking at me naked. I mean, as a drama student, why the fuck I suddenly developed modesty, I will never know. Anyway, suffice to say, it was short-lived because as anybody who's given birth will know, like, I mean, your modesty, like, disappears. About 2 centimetres of cervix dilation, I reckon. Your modesty pursues, exit stage left pursued by a bear. I mean, it's just like, there could have been a marching band in there. I could have been giving birth on stage at the O2 and I've been like, crack on, who's got the drugs? Who's got the gas and air? Bring me the gas and air. Like, literally, stuff I thought I would give a shit about. Oh my goodness, what if I poo myself while I'm having a baby? You won't give a flying fuck because there is something the size of a badger covered in barbed wire emerging from your front bottom. A little tiny shit is neither here nor there in the grand circle of fucking fucked up life. Like, there must be a better way. There must be a better orifice. Like, in the great world of creation, did we really think, you know, is the vagina the best place for this baby to come out? Should we not create like a hatch? You know, you can get those hatches between living rooms and dining rooms and kitchens. You know, the human body should just have a little hatch. You could just like pull up your like, I don't know, right thigh and the baby just pop out and then you'll sit down and have a nice cup of tea and the baby just be here and then, and you know, there must be a better way. There must be a better way. So yeah, lack of dignity. Nobody told, well, probably people told me and I was like, yeah, it won't be like that. It was like that. As I say, marching bands on and I wouldn't have cared. One of the ones that I might have said on here before that really took me by surprise was the fact that babies need their nappies changing. Now, I'm not stupid, although this story is going to make it sound like I am. I'm not stupid. I knew that babies wore nappies because we had bought some nappies. But I think I probably kind of thought that it was like when you're on your last day of your period and you like make a pad go the whole day. I think that's probably what I was thinking nappies would be like. I mean, nobody told me that babies as like a fucking tap down there. It's constant, absolutely constant. I made the mistake when Beth was little of like going, oh, she's so little and now look at her little bottom. I'm just going to carry her around the house with no clothes on. And by the time I'd taken 2 steps down the stairs, she had weed on me, shat on me and vomited on me. So yeah, nappies are there for a reason. When I had Jamie, and in my defence, and we'll come on to sleep deprivation in a moment, in my defence, I was so fucking sleep deprived after a week of labour. I hadn't slept in, I think, 5 nights. I mean, honestly, I was struggling to know which way up I was. And so I had Jamie at like lunchtime and then Mr. I Know I Need to Stop Talking was there for a bit. I think I'm very, very vague on this entire period because I was so fucking out of it with sleep deprivation. And then they took me down to where I was staying in the room and I passed out on the bed. Like literally, I can remember I lay back on the bed, like with my legs hanging. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, I lay back and I passed out. And I do mean passed out. I was exhausted. And then like I woke up and then they would show me how to feed the baby. We'll come on to feeding shortly. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And I'm cracking on with this and everything. And then it got to like the middle of the night. He was born at lunchtime. We got to the middle of the night. And he was like really kicking off. And I was like, what? All the books I've read, the books that the babies clearly have never read, but all the books I've read said that, you know, your newborn's usually quite sleepy for the first 24 hours, like how you get over the trauma of the birth. And believe me, I need to fucking get over this trauma. There is a lot of trauma right now. And he was kicking off and stuff. So, the midwives were really lovely and were trying to help me and stuff. And they were like, are you fed him? I said, yeah. You winded him? Yeah. When did he last have his nappy changed? And I went, nappies, that's a thing, isn't it? And the midwife, very kindly, because she could see that I was not coping well, said to me, I tell you what, would you like me to do it? And I was like, oh my goodness, that'd be amazing. And to be fair, if I had realised what I was signing her up to, I would have offered to help. Because basically, you know, the awful, harrowing reports that you see on the news sometimes where like the seabirds have been coated in an oil slick. That was what Jamie's entire lower half looked like, because meconium, which is the really black, sticky, what hell is this that comes out of your baby when they're first born, yeah, that had been coming out of Jamie for a good 12 hours. And yeah, I remember standing there still sleep deprived horribly and going, babies are cute when? fair play to that midwife. She took one for the team. But yes, if you're about to have a baby, my top tip is don't leave it 12 hours to change their nappy. But you probably don't need to be told that because you're not fucking stupid. Feeding your baby. So I was reading something that I really wanted to breastfeed, and to be really clear, this is not a breastfeeding versus bottle feeding debate, because I think both are brilliant, because you are feeding your baby and keeping your baby alive. Fucking yay you. You do you. As Jamie would say, you do you. So this is definitely not a debate about those. But anyway, I decided that I wanted to try and breastfeed, and I was very lucky that I was able to do that. But you look at like these images of these serene mothers in these books with their babies there nicely attached to their breast in a lovely pose, as opposed to like the wrestling pose I was having to do to get my child to latch onto my nipple. And you're like, how are these women doing it? Because it's not fucking natural. I mean, it is fucking natural, but it's also simultaneously a form of torture, and I do not think the two things are mutually exclusive. I have never known pain like those initial days of breastfeeding, when like literally bits of your nipple are falling off in your baby's mouth, and the midwife's like, that's perfectly normal, and I'm like, nothing about this situation is even slightly normal. This I don't even know what this is madness. But you're so sleep deprived, you just fucking crack on with it. You just get on with it. And it does get easier, and it's worth persevering in those early days. But again, I wish someone had told me that breastfeeding, it may be natural, but it's also like trying to do a fucking rhythmic gymnastics display with your nipples on fire, one arm bent behind your back, and a bowl filled with water and tadpoles, and I have no fucking idea where that analogy has just come from, balanced on your head while you're riding a unicycle. It is so difficult. So fucking difficult and unbelievably painful. And yeah, it's brilliant and fantastic, and it's really, really good for your baby. So goodness, please don't misinterpret this. I think it's a great thing to do. I breastfeed both my kids. If you're able to do it, it's a fantastic thing to do. But it is also very fucking difficult. And I thought, because I had read the books, and this is a theme of my parenting journey, I thought because I'd read the books, it would not be this hard. And it really was this fucking hard. Oh my God, it's so fucking difficult. Mind you, then you get onto bottle feeding, which I also did when they were a bit older. And that's a fucking nightmare too, getting bottles to the right temperature and juggling sterilisers and sterilising everything that moves. I mean, God, literally, the day that the steriliser went, I was like, freedom at last, freedom, because I'm no longer sterilising everything that moves. And to be fair, every parent who's had more than one child will know. First kid, you sterilise fucking everything. Second kid, bit of a lick in your mouth, you're grand, off you go and eat some dirt, you'll be fine, good for your immune system. The sleep deprivation, obviously, for me was a big one. I know lots of people have children who sleep, and I had Beth, so I have seen it is possible for some babies to sleep, even to the point that we used to have to wake Beth up to be fed. But I think, and this is probably another blog post in itself, podcast in itself, because I do think there is a serious conversation to be had about the fact that for most people, sleep deprivation is shit, and it's hard work, and it's knackering, but it is surmountable. You can get through it. But when you've got a baby like Jamie, and you're getting maybe hour and a half, 2 hours sleep, broken sleep a night for weeks and months and even years on end. I mean, that was a very dark time in my life. Literally, because I had to keep all the fucking lights off to try and make Jamie go to sleep. That was a very dark time in my life. But honestly, there's a reason it's used as a form of torture. You know, babies do not go the fuck to sleep, or some of them do, but some of them are definitely not wired to go to sleep. And yeah, I don't know, in some ways I think probably it was best that I didn't know how horrendous the sleep deprivation would be, because I still now, like however hard it is now when you have to let, like, Jamie leave the house by himself, and I was like, it's my baby, and even though he's massive and towering over me and going, all right, mum. But none of that is as hard as those first few weeks and months and years. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And it's not like that for everybody, right? For some people it's a breeze, and some people find the teenage years an absolute nightmare. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think we all find our time, and my time was definitely not in the hell of the pits of sleep deprivation. But yeah, I mean, obviously now it's like, you know, totally different problem on a school morning, trying to go and drag my children out of bed. I got up one morning this week and found Jamie, he got up with his duvet. He'd gone downstairs in his duvet and he'd fallen back asleep on the sofa. And I went and woke up and said, mate, we're going to go in like 20 minutes. He was like, do you think it's an inset day? I said, no. He said, He said, well, it was worth a try, wasn't it? I mean, God love him. God love his optimism. God love his optimism. But also the stuff that at the time you think really matters, you think is so important. Like, back to how you feed your baby. At the time, how you feed your baby feels like the biggest fucking decision in the world. And I look now at all Jamie and Beth's peers and classmates and friends. Nobody knows who was breastfeeding, nobody knows who was bottle feeding, and I'm not denying there's some health benefits of breastfeeding, but the point I'm saying is that in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. It's like the age your child learns to read. Oh my God, the fucking reading levels at primary school, they drove me mad. I went a little bit mad over reading levels because, I don't know, I just got swept up in it. It's like the petrol buying madness. I was swept up in the reading level madness, despite ever so occasionally thinking to myself, what is this? What the fuck am I doing? This is madness. And I realised that I'd hit peak madness when one day Jamie accidentally came out of school with another child's book bag with his reading diary in, and we didn't realise until we got them home. And Jamie at that time was a very, very, I'll say mediocre reader because that's kind. He was shit. I love you, Jamie. Your reading was shit back then. And you're a brilliant reader now, so it just goes to show. And his friend was like phenomenal reader, and it was always been talked about on the class Facebook groups and all of that, how good this individual was at reading. And so I am ashamed to say that before I even phoned this mother to tell her that we had her child's book bag, I went in and had a look at what level her son was on and then guilt-tripped myself for about 3 hours. What the fuck? I can't even blame sleep deprivation at that point. That was just absolute fucking madness. But it doesn't matter. We look around, the kids now, we look around adults now. Nobody cares what fucking reading level you are on, or what age you got to have free reader, or what age you were weaned, or how you were weaned, or what you ate, or how many organic vegetables you grew in your back fucking garden. It doesn't matter, but it feels like it does at the time. And I think if there was one thing I could say to kind of like me pre-having kids, it's like, just keep the perspective, because I was not very good at keeping perspective. Not very good at keeping perspective at all. But yeah, it's a mental gig, parenting, isn't it? And the truest quote I think I've ever read about parenting, and it comes to me every single time I let Jamie, leave the house or go to school or do anything. I read a quote where somebody said, parenting is like having your heart walk around outside your body, and I wanted to cry because it's so, so fucking true. And yeah, that probably is the hardest thing, isn't it? It's letting them go. Don't worry, I'm not going to launch into Let It Go from Frozen, although there is a little bit of me that's dying to, but I would like you to listen to the end of the podcast, so I won't do that. But yeah, those things that you wish. What do you wish? That's the trouble with podcasts. I really want to ask you now, and have you talked to me and say what are the things that you wish you had known? But you can't. I'll just continue to shout into the void. There must be what I still don't really understand podcasts, and I appreciate a year, and I should probably have got the hang of them. There must be a way for us to interact, but I don't know what that is. Maybe you could all come around with the Ocado man. Oh my goodness, that would be great. All come around with the Ocado man, and then we could sit and do this podcast together. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? That would be nice. But yeah, parenting learnings over the years, and it is loads easier. To be really clear, I would not want to suggest in any way it's as bad as those dark early days. I think for me it was the moment where I wrote about it at the time on Facebook. I'd got up, I hadn't been woken up pre 5 a.m. Nobody had smashed me in the eye sockets with a Tommy Tippy cup. I'd got up, my children were both entertained, and I went. And I've run myself a bath, and I lay back in the bath, and I relaxed in that bath for a full 30 minutes, and no one came in and took a shit in the toilet next to me. And that, my friends, that is progress. So yeah, I'm going to go and wonder what to do with my Saturday evening, because there's no Ocado delivery to put away. Maybe, oh my goodness, maybe I'll fold my bags. Maybe I could finally fold my bags into samosas. I won't, because life is fucking short, but that would be more productive than queuing for petrol. So if you're thinking, I've got 3/4 of a tank of petrol, shall I go and queue for some more? No, don't fucking do that. That's a dick move. Go and fold your bags into samosas instead. I'm sure it will bring you much joy and many moments of happiness into your lives. I hope you have a good week, whatever you're doing. I hope if you need petrol, you can get some. I'm joking, there isn't a petrol shortage. Calm down, everybody, calm down. The trouble is when the papers keep saying, don't panic, don't panic, don't panic, all everybody reads is panic, 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 panic. However, it's more difficult to stockpile petrol than toilet rolls, so I think we're probably all good, although definitely don't try wiping your ass on petrol, because that is probably a comedy trip to A&E just waiting to happen. And now I feel like I sound like I'm speaking from experience here. I'm really not. Don't wipe your ass with petrol. Have good weeks, my loves. Stay safe. Look after yourselves. I'll see you next week. Take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye.